What if the worst day of your life, the betrayal, the abandonment, the silence, wasn't the end of your story, but the beginning of your calling? What if the pain you're walking through today isn't proof that God has left you, but a sign that He's about to position you for something greater? This isn't just a story from ancient scripture. It's a story that echoes in the hearts of anyone who's ever been misunderstood, mistreated, or just forgotten. This is the story of Joseph. Not just a dreamer, but a survivor. A man who was broken before he was raised, betrayed before he was crowned, buried in a pit before he was lifted to a throne. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see your story in his. Think about it. Joseph didn't start as a ruler. He started as the favorite son, loved deeply by his father Jacob, given a beautiful coat, full of color, and dreams, full of destiny. But those dreams didn't make him popular. They made him a target. His own brothers, the ones who should have protected him, were the first to plot against him. Ever been there? Ever had someone close turn their back, cut you out, or use your vulnerability against you? Joseph has. But what man meant for evil, God was already planning for good. The pit they threw Joseph into wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was the entry point to a divine process, a process of crushing, molding, and refining. A process that would prepare him for a future he couldn't yet see, but one God had already written. So don't rush past the pain. Don't write off the waiting. Because if Joseph's story teaches us anything, it's this: God does His best work in the dark, and He turns betrayal into purpose if we dare to hold on long enough to see it. Stay with me, because Joseph's journey is only just beginning, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Have you ever felt like your life was going in the exact opposite direction of your dreams? Joseph did. He had a dream given by God, a destiny whispered into his spirit. Yet everything that happened next looked like anything but purpose. 1. Betrayed by his brothers, the wound that started it all. Joseph was his father, Jacob's favorite, a young man with integrity, innocence, and a unique gift for dreams. His coat of many colors was more than a garment. It was a symbol of promise. But that promise sparked jealousy. His brothers hated him, not just for his dreams, but for the favor on his life. They stripped him of his robe. They threw him into a pit. And when they saw a caravan of traders passing by, they sold their brother for 20 pieces of silver. Think about that. Sold by family. Have you ever been wounded by the very people who were supposed to protect you? The betrayal didn't just hurt, it redefined Joseph's entire life. And yet, it was only the beginning. 2. Falsely accused, integrity in the fire. Joseph was brought into the house of Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Despite being a slave in a foreign land, Joseph didn't sulk. He served. He honored. He worked with excellence. And God was with him. Soon, he was entrusted with everything in Potiphar's house. But then came a test, not of skill, but of character. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him. Joseph refused. Repeatedly, he stood firm. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? But integrity doesn't always lead to applause. Sometimes it leads to accusation. She lied. He was arrested, thrown into prison, for doing the right thing. 3. Faithful in the dark, blooming in the dungeon. Now a prisoner, Joseph could have given up, but he didn't. Even in the prison, Joseph found favor. The warden trusted him and put him in charge of the other inmates. He served, even when unseen. He led, even when forgotten. 2 fellow prisoners, The king's cupbearer and baker each had troubling dreams. Joseph interpreted them perfectly, giving all credit to God. To the cupbearer, he made one humble request. Please remember me. Mention me to Pharaoh. But the cupbearer forgot. 2 full years. Imagine sitting in the silence of delay, knowing you did everything right, yet you're still stuck. Fourth, promotion from the pit. When God opens the door. Then one night, Pharaoh had a dream. No one could interpret it. Panic filled the palace. Suddenly, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was rushed out of prison, shaved, changed, and brought before the king. And when Pharaoh asked if he could interpret the dream, Joseph humbly said, I cannot. But God can. Joseph explained the dream. 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of severe famine. He didn't just interpret the dream. He offered a plan. Pharaoh saw something in Joseph that no one else had. Wisdom, strategy, and the Spirit of God. And just like that, Joseph, the prisoner, became the second most powerful man in Egypt. 5. The final test. Face to face with his past. The famine struck. People from all lands came to Egypt for food, including Joseph's brothers. They didn't recognize him, but Joseph knew them. He tested them, not out of revenge, but to see if their hearts had changed. Would they protect their youngest brother Benjamin? Would they show remorse? They did. Joseph couldn't hold back the tears. He revealed his identity in one of the most emotional moments in Scripture. I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Silence, shock, fear. But then came the words that changed everything. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to save many lives. Conclusion of the journey. Purpose in the pain. Joseph chose forgiveness. He embraced the ones who betrayed him, and he saved the very people who once destroyed his life. Because he understood this. God doesn't waste pain. Every detour, every delay, every dark place, he uses it to prepare us for purpose. And just like Joseph, your pit doesn't cancel your promise. Your silence doesn't silence your calling. So if you feel forgotten, remember, your breakthrough may be one dream away. So what does Joseph's story mean for us today? It's not just about a man who rose to power. It's not just about dreams and thrones. Joseph's journey is a mirror, reflecting how God uses broken pieces to build a masterpiece. We often ask, why the pain? Why the betrayal? Why the delay? Joseph had every reason to give up, to become bitter, to believe the dream was dead. But through every betrayal, God was building resilience. Through every prison, God was preparing promotion. Through every silence, God was still speaking. Every wound had a purpose. God didn't cause the betrayal. He didn't force the injustice, but he allowed it to shape a man into a vessel of purpose. When Joseph stood before his brothers, the same brothers who sold him into slavery, he didn't see enemies. He saw instruments. Instruments God used to move him into position. Joseph said it best. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Maybe you've been sold out. Maybe you've been overlooked. Maybe you're still in your waiting season. But what if that delay isn't denial? What if your setback is just setup? God never wastes pain. Not one moment in Joseph's life was random. Not one wound was wasted. The pit, the prison, the palace, all part of a greater plan. You may be in your own pit right now. It might look like failure. It might feel like abandonment. But God is still writing. So here's the challenge. Stay faithful, even when it hurts, even when you don't understand. Because the God who was with Joseph in the pit was the same God who raised him to the palace. And he's not done with you either. Your lowest valley may still be part of your greatest testimony. So today, hold on, because even in the silence, even in the waiting, the author of your story is still holding the pen. Keep walking, keep trusting, because God is still working, even when it doesn't look like it. Joseph's story didn't end in a pit, and neither will yours.